There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
What's up, and welcome into the program roundup. I'm Patrick Hertzberger. Joined with me today is Mason Prince, Mark Hall, and Matthew Gann. As always, we are sponsored by our friends at the Fan Stop. Go to the website right now. The link is in the bio, and go get yourself or join the Shirt of the Month Club and get t-shirts delivered to your door every single month of your favorite school. We're covering a lot of bowl games today, and they have over 50 licensed schools, so your school is most likely on their website. Or get a game day polo. Either of those, whether you're getting a game day polo or the Shirt of the Month Club, use our promo code PGUYZ for 15% off your first 3 months of the Shirt of the Month Club, or 15% off their game day polos as well. And before we get into all these bowl games, remember to like and subscribe to the Program Guys podcast. Guys, how we doing?
We're doing great. Let the Program Guys be the last to wish you a very happy new year.
Wow.
We hope you had a good holiday season, a good bowl season as we begin to talk about it, but a lot of fun, man. We saw the college football playoff games last night, 2 good games, right? Like, we usually don't get that. Usually one of them's a blowout. But both games were really good. 4 teams that came to play for certain. I still don't think they got the 4 right, though. So we'll just go with that.
Love that. Mark, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I just wanted to supplement our plug earlier. You can also go get jackets and quarter zips from the Fan Stop now as well. A couple of new products they're rolling out. I don't know if our offer code works on them, but give it a try. I would absolutely encourage you to give it a shot. And
I believe it does.
Get that 15% off the new stuff too.
Even if it doesn't work, worth the money.
Oh yeah,
like quality product.
I'm not saying not to purchase. I'm saying you.
Yeah.
And you should roll the dice on 15% with the Program Guys.
100%. PGUYZ.
Speaking of rolling the dice, isn't that what every bowl game is nowadays? Opt-outs, transfers, the NFL, head coaches leaving, other coaches leaving, right? It's not just head coaches, it's coordinators going to be head coaches. Lot of turnover this time of the year in the college football world. I need you to guide me through the process, brother.
I will guide you here. Gann, do you have anything to say before I guide us through this journey of bowl games?
I'm just happy to be here, but I also want to give a reminder that we did do the Program Guys Bowl Mania Pick'em, so I do want to go over the standings. I ended up in first place, 25-17.
That's
spreads.
Freaking good, Matt.
I want to say if I actually had money on these games, I'd be probably pretty well up, but that's just not the case.
Yeah, you could go to fanstop.com and buy some merch right now.
I could. I am actually currently top 5,000 in the world currently.
Yeah, if you had
good spread to the game,
and
I do have
17. If you put money down, you'd be doing well.
I'm doing well. And one last bowl game to pick. I see it's 4.5 right now. Favored Michigan. I don't know about that one yet. We shall see.
Well, we'll get into it.
Good bowl mania, though.
Yeah,
Make sure you post your final pick whenever we get there.
Yeah. Sounds good. As a reminder to everyone, number 2 Washington defeated number 3 Texas 37-31 in a thriller last night, and Michigan took Alabama into overtime, winning that game 27-20. Other notable bowl games is Nico, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, but the Tennessee quarterback shut out Iowa 35-0. Played a great first freshman start that game. Oregon really defeated Liberty 45-6. LSU beat Wisconsin 35-31. Georgia setting records by beating Florida State 63-3. That was the largest margin in bowl game history. We'll get into that. Ole Miss defeats Penn State 38-25. Missouri defeats Ohio State in a very boring Cotton Bowl game 14-3. Notre Dame wins against Oregon State 40-8. Clemson, of course, Dabo Swinney loves his bowl games, wins 38-35. Oklahoma loses to Arizona, sadly, 38-24. and much, much more. Oh, I guess notable one also, Oklahoma State beating Texas A&M 31-23, and USC beating Louisville 42-28. But let's start off with talking. Anything on that, or do you guys want to start off with talking again? Alabama, Michigan.
I think we jump right into the playoff games because they're the most fresh on the mind.
Totally.
I guess I'll jump in here.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I have a few thoughts. So number one, I think that Alabama showed that they well deserved to be in. Michigan looked apart. I will credit to Michigan. They looked like a more physical football team. They looked really, really good. So Michigan and Washington is going to be a really, really fun game. Like, I think I got Washington in that game though, because JJ McCarthy doesn't really scare me. Blake Corum, sure, I'm about that. He's a stud, but like, we know that running backs can only do so much for you in college football. So if Michigan's game is going to rely on Blake Corum, I don't think JJ McCarthy can carry them. But I thought Michigan's defense was outstanding. Granted, not as vaunted of an Alabama offense as we've seen in a long time, but still an Alabama offense that was kind of figuring it out over the last like 10 games, right? They were kind of getting their stuff together. I don't know what the final play call that's going to be talked about a lot for Alabama. They had the swing pass set up. Another low snap by that center for Alabama caused that play to blow up in a smoke. People are going to ask why you call, a quarterback dive. It really wasn't. I think the play got blown up and Milroe just put his head down and tried to get whatever he could. I think he had more time to collect himself and look to the left. And they had a like a bubble screen sort of set up, and who knows, we could still be playing that game for all I know. But Michigan, how about Michigan coming out in overtime and just hitting them in the mouth with a steady die to Blake Corum? That's grown man football right there. And Michigan's going to be a problem for Washington for sure, but I still like Washington. Anyone else on the Rose Bowl?
Yeah, I think Alabama walked in there and decided we're going to play Big Ten football. And that's going to be something Washington doesn't do. Alabama just came in and said, all right, you dictate the pace. You dictate the terms of engagement here. And Michigan was built better than I expected to win that kind of a football game. They were able to wear down the Alabama team versus the reverse, which is sort of what I saw out of that game. It'll be interesting to see, and we haven't talked Washington yet, but just sort of the complete and total contrast in football styles that we're going to see out of that game. It feels almost like the old Oklahoma versus Georgia versus Bama versus whatever from back in the day, where we're just having to run all over the field. And these teams are just solid, strong, powerful units. It'll be a really fun championship. To speak more to the Rose Bowl, the M's with the roses on the shoulder. Yeah. I knew they were going to win the moment those popped up. That was
pretty hard.
Cool. Those are hard, man.
That's like full on 90s aesthetic right there. That looked pretty good. Yeah.
Gorgeous. And Bama didn't do anything. So I think you kind of knew coming in, no matter how you felt. Oh, there it is. Right. That's why Utah won those Rose Bowls so many times.
Big facts.
Some great points. I'm actually going to disagree with Mason on one point, which is JJ McCarthy went 17 of 27, 221 yards, and 3 tutties. So, listen, do I think JJ McCarthy is an absolute elite quarterback? No, but he did enough to get his team the win. He was obviously the biggest part of Michigan's offense last night, I believe. I mean, Blake Corum, obviously, the touchdown in overtime. But what I'll tell you is that Michigan's defense is absolutely suffocating. I mean, they held Jalen Milroe to 116 yards passing, and you felt like Michigan was going to lose the game after they threw a almost interception until it was revealed it wasn't, when the Alabama defender stepped out of bounds before catching the ball. and Alabama had all the momentum after that. But Michigan, man, Michigan's defense is legit. I would take Michigan to easily. I think they're going to easily go past Washington. Washington's defense is like 120th. They're not going to be able to stop anything in that championship game. But this was another instant classic of the Rose Bowl. Two teams that deserved to be there. And I actually felt like this was the championship game versus what we're going to see next week. But congrats for Michigan for getting over the hump, losing 2 straight years in the college football playoff, and really getting blown out the last 2 years by 2 good teams. So good for Jim Harbaugh getting over the hump. I assume this will be his last game as a Michigan head coach, but he can potentially go on top. So we shall see what happens next week, and a pretty good matchup.
We gotta hold on. We gotta linger on that. So you thought this? So nothing about the other game that we're gonna get to makes you think that next week's game is actually the game. So regardless of result,
not a chance. I don't think Washington's defense is going to be able to stop anything that Michigan wants to do. And Michigan's defense is too good. Now, Michael Penix, I think, will still have a good game, but I think Michigan is going to blow him out.
oh,
I think
blow 'em
I
out,
think
the 4.5 from earlier that you were a little
Yeah, it's
on
starting
the
to look a
fence
little bit
about.
more.
I guess you're
It's-
really feeling different
Yeah,
now.
I'm feeling a lot better about it.
I think
Yeah.
Michigan
Been like
is
3
going to
minutes.
get. I think Michigan is going to be shell shocked when Michael Penix starts throwing that ball around the field because they ain't seen a quarterback like that this year.
They haven't
And
seen
I'm
an
not. I'm here to
offense.
tell you. Yeah, I'm here to tell you. Michigan's defense looked fantastic. I completely agree. But you also mentioned something about JJ McCarthy. If he comes into the game, the national championship with that same stat line, Matt, Michigan loses by 2 scores. Period. Point blank.
You think Washington's going to score more than
Yes.
28 points on that
Yes.
defense?
100%.
I disagree.
I do.
I disagree.
They haven't seen a quarterback like Michael Penix all year.
I
All
agree.
year. Congrats
agree.
on out dueling Jalen Milroe. Right? Like, no.
Who was benched for Tyler Buckner?
Yes. Sorry, Patrick. You haven't even gotten to the Rose Bowl. Go ahead.
No,
Sorry, man.
I lean more Mason on this one as well. I think Michigan is a good team, but Washington they haven't seen an offense like Washington. So maybe you could argue in Ohio State, but not really. Washington is a very complete offense that I don't think they've seen. I was surprised by the game. Mark, I like your point of Alabama came in, played some Big Ten football. I noticed that as well and felt like Alabama was going to play it better. And especially when it got to overtime, I was like, there's just no way Nick Saban loses in an overtime game. Michigan came out incredibly in that overtime, suffocated the Alabama offense, did a really good job at scoring right away too. So it was a great, fun game. I'm glad we got some free football out of it, and I'm glad we got a really good game out of that.
Yeah. I don't have anything else to add, actually. You guys
Michigan's
continue. I was looking
Michigan's
at,
special teams is atrocious, and I believe it's Jim Harbaugh's son who's a special teams coordinator. Is that correct or incorrect? I don't know.
Let's go
I
with
hope
it.
so.
The dude trying to fair catch a
Oh,
punt at the 5-yard line
disaster.
with time going down. All-time brainworms moment.
Yes.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever. That was dumber than his muff in the first drive of the game. Like, that's insane. It cannot be overstated how disastrous that could have been. Disastrous.
Michigan deserved to win, and also they kind of didn't with the way that they
Yeah.
handled that.
Yeah. for
Um,
sure.
That was crazy the way that it went down. And I guess, I mean, it was good. It was a good game, but it was truly like peak Big Ten football to
It
me.
was.
Where, oh wow, look at these lines battle. Look at this running game. And again, I think I don't want to get too far into it, but it's going to be a different looking game next week.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I'm not afraid of Jay McCarthy either. I think he's just an above average or just an average quarterback.
I agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Anything else on Alabama, Michigan? Michigan winning that game 27-20 in overtime.
No,
Awesome.
the last thing I have about Alabama is if you're a college football fan, I know it's easy to hate Alabama, but I think we're starting to get to the point where we kind of need to appreciate greatness, like in the LeBron era kind of thing, like appreciate LeBron's greatness. I feel like we're starting to get to that point where we kind of have to take a step back and think, how many more seasons does Nick Saban have in him? No, I'm not saying he's going to retire this offseason. There's just no way. I don't think he does. But I think, 5 years, maybe like that. I think it's time to like kind of appreciate what you're seeing while you're seeing it. Like no other team has been a lock to make the playoff since its inception than Alabama. It's crazy.
That's a good point. And when you look at Alabama at the beginning of the year, the loss of Texas early, the first 3-4 games, they just looked bad.
Oh, they looked abysmal.
Absolute most improved team this season. I think that's undeniably true. And that's just because Nick Saban's the head coach. I don't know if there's other coaches that could have made that team as good as they are, a playoff contender to beat Georgia.
Yep.
Besides Brent Venables, probably.
I love
Probably Brent Venables. That's what I was going to say. That the owner of one above 500 season.
That's right.
All right, folks, let's get into Texas against Washington. Texas losing that game 37-31 and kind of a late thriller there. A lot of points on the board. That's kind of what I wanted to see out of that game in the first place. I was not surprised Washington won that game. I had them to win that game. I think they were more a complete team that showed they had the better quarterback that showed that game went as planned to me. What are your thoughts?
Matt?
Yeah, the over-under for this game, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, it was like 64 points or something like that. It was just an outrageous...
It was 63 when I checked it. So yeah,
63. So, and it lived up to its hype. I mean, they had 20 plus points each at halftime. Both teams almost, Texas had 500 and Washington had 532 yards of offense. I think this is what you expected out of the Sugar Bowl. Not a lot of defense to be played on either side, with both defenses ranking in the bottom half of a lot of major statistical categories. So this is what you want to see. A lot of fireworks, a lot of back and forth. Two really good quarterbacks have been playing all year. And Michael Penix, I mean, watching him throw a football is incredible. It looks just so sharp coming out of that left hand of his. And again, I think they're definitely going to give Michigan problems next week, but you can see why he beat Oregon twice and why he led his team to the spot they are now. I mean, he was throwing dimes all over the field, and obviously he's got some NFL caliber wide receivers on his team as well. They're definitely going to give a lot of fits to Michigan, just like they did Texas last night. And you felt like Texas almost had it when they had 4 tries within the 15-yard line of Washington to come back and almost beat them. So got pretty lucky at the end there. Washington did pretty much everything they could to almost give it up in the late innings of that game. But this is what you want to see: a lot of fireworks, a lot of scoring, and 2 elite quarterbacks dueling in the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, I love all of that. I would amend it to 1 elite quarterback dueling in the Sugar Bowl. Quinn Ewers goes 24 for 43 with a touchdown, and I thought looked a little bit more shook all night than you might have expected from the first round prospect that he absolutely is if he decides to come out. Unfortunately, I saw some speculation online that maybe there's a hit that concusses him at some point, because then you start to see just weird little like, oh, he stumbles here. It's hard to know. Like, okay, did he stumble because of that, or did he stumble because like he's been taking hits all day? It's just hard to know. I'm not going to speculate on that, but I don't think that Quinn had a wonderful game. I think Washington actually came in with a really great defensive game plan at halftime. A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy had a combined 8 targets for 1 catch. By the end of the game, I don't know the target numbers, but Xavier Worthy ends with 2 catches and A.D. Mitchell has 4. He has Quinn's only touchdown in the air. I think that for the most part, Washington was able to force the ball to players like Jatavian Sanders and Jordan Whittington due to our absolutely serviceable tight end and wide receiver 3 after those studs on the outside, or if you line them up inside, whatever it is. And you saw it play out, because the play before A.D. Mitchell's touchdown, he is screaming at the sideline about not getting the ball. For all the talk about the culture that's being built in Texas, man, that's not what you want from your guy, and it doesn't matter how things are going, right? You don't want that kind of passion coming through. So maybe a little bit of a gilded thing with this football program. Maybe there's a little bit more that needs to happen to Texas internally, more growth, more development, all of that stuff before they really are that team. But man, we're going to talk about Washington more and more. This was the best Texas team I've seen in a long time. This team wipes the floor with the Ellinger we're back team. The Starks got something there. I really think Starks got something there.
So I thought Washington looked fantastic, looked every bit as good as they have all season long. And this is what we've come to expect from them, throwing the ball around to Odunze and Michael Penix Jr. just looking like a god throwing the football. Matt was right. There's no quarterback in college football that throws a prettier ball than Michael Penix Jr. right now. And it's a lot of fun to watch. I do want to say this. Overall record through the first 3 seasons, 25-14 for Steve Sarkisian, 17-10 conference record, 1 win against the top 10 team. No bowl wins, no New Year's 6 wins. Jimbo Fisher, recently fired Jimbo Fisher, first 3 seasons at Texas A&M, 26-10. That's 1 win better, 4 less losses. 17-8 conference record, better conference record. 3 bowl wins, that's 3 more than 0. And then 1 New Year's 6 bowl win, 1 more than Steve Sarkisian, 0.
Wow. I like that.
So it's interesting. I'm not here to tell you folks that they're the same coach. I'm not here to say that. All I am
Draw
here
that
to
conclusion yourself.
I just throw the numbers, right?
You're just the numbers.
I'm just the numbers guy.
Yeah.
But I will say this. I told you on the roundup the first weekend of December, that Texas was not one of the best 4 teams. I told you that Georgia was. And Georgia proved it. Now, Texas made it a good game. Let's keep it a buck. They had a chance to win it at the end, or a chance to tie, or whatever it was. But Georgia's in that game instead of Texas.
Right.
I don't think Washington comes out the other side. Not that
Right.
Georgia team. And that's what I was saying the first weekend in December when we were here talking about who the 4 were going to be or what the records were and what the resumes were. And Georgia went out and they showed that they deserve to be there. So that's what I take away from it. Washington deserves to be in the national championship. I'm not taking anything away from them. This is solely, I just didn't think Texas was one of the best 4 teams. And I didn't really think they had a shot in hell at beating Washington. And they didn't. At one point, they were down 13 in the fourth quarter, I think, and they fumbled driving down, like just an inexcusable fumble after a big play. Like, good God, doing his absolute best Jaleel Farouk impression, whoever it was. But yeah, it just a credit to Washington. I think Washington, Michigan's going to be a really, really fun game. I cannot wait for that. I will be watching. So yeah, that's all I got.
Love it. Anything else on that game?
Man, did expect more from Worthy. That Washington defense was
Yep.
better than I expected it to be.
Yeah. Small comment on my end. We don't need to deep dive in it. But if I'm an NFL scout right now and I look at the quarterbacks that are draftable, I think I'd go with Michael Penix Jr. I think he's proved that he should be the number 1 pick because he doesn't come asking for equity. A little
That's
bit
not
less
bad.
drama.
Yeah.
And just a safe, really good choice there. That's all I've got.
So I'm not going to reach for him, but if he's there second round, I'm taking him. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Patrick's saying number 1 though, and like
No,
Patrick, I need you to know
I'm not saying
the
that.
guy who had to transfer from Indiana because he was too hurt to play quarterback there is not going to end up being QB1. There's just too many health concerns there. Also, maybe it's nothing, but he definitely said free my person, and said someone, free my homie something on TV last night after the game. And GMs can't love that.
No,
I
They
didn't
can't
catch
love
that.
that part.
definitely can't.
Pat's like, I do though.
Absolutely.
Trying to free his naysayers. Honestly, man.
Oh my god.
God,
I
that was
didn't want to do
ridiculous.
that. I didn't want to do that.
Oh man, just all time.
Patrick's like, I like an edge to my quarterback like that.
That's right. All right, Pat. What's the next thing we're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk. Let's talk about Georgia, Florida State real quick, and the fact that something's got to change in college football in these bowl games to mean something. I mean, next year it'll get better because there will be 12, but I mean, allowing this, there's got to be some type of, I don't know. I don't know what you do. What do you do in this situation? Do you not allow kids to opt out unless they're going to the draft? I don't
You
know
don't
what
get
to
that
do, but it
choice.
sucks. This sucks for the sport.
You can't force them. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
actually have, an idea, right? So
Cool.
the 12 games are the 12 games, or the 12 opening, the teams, the 12 teams are the teams, and then you're gonna take the big bowls. I don't know what the exact number is. You're gonna take the big bowls and you're gonna make those their playoff games, right?
Yeah.
All throughout. Everything else needs to have clever marketing, like the stupid Pop-Tart thing, and just lean all the way into the fun aspects of it, because that's going to keep players interested and that's going to keep viewers interested. And not much else. I mean, there's not much else you can do, because if a player is told you might be a first round pick, but your team was 6-7, so you're going to be playing in the Cheez-It Bowl, there's got to be a reason to play in the freaking Cheez-It Bowl, or I'm opting the hell out. So I think those are kind of your only options, because we've seen the competitive aspect of the non-playoff bowl games. Sometimes it's there, but that's luck. That's happenstance. That's not the two teams that you saw all year at their best playing each other. Those days are gone unless they're next year in the top 12.
I don't really think there's a solution to getting these kids to not opting out or skipping out or whatever you want to call it. And without trying to sound like old man yelling at the clouds or anything, it's kind of a generational thing, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like every society grows and changes, it has ebbs and flows throughout its entirety. I just think this is the part of society that you're in right now, this day and age. These guys know they're worth something. They know that they can get money on the back end if they hold out. Like they have no incentive. And I don't know if it's you go into the bowl game and you have the bowl game give an NIL deal to every guy on the roster for X amount of dollars instead of paying out the school for whatever stupid amount that you pay them for showing up. Maybe that's a solution. I don't know, but still, again, someone like Jaden Daniels, let's call it, I don't know, let's call it 20 grand. Is 20 grand worth an appearance with a chance of missing out on a NFL contract or a later NFL contract? It's not. So you're still going to skip out. But I mean, we're brainstorming here. I don't really
You're
know
gonna
the
lose
solution.
the top. You're gonna lose
Yeah.
the absolute top no matter what, right?
Yeah.
So what you're really looking to do is make it interesting for the guy who might be a day 3 pick. That's what you're keeping, because even a second round pick or a third round pick, there is no long-term value in that $20,000 if some redshirt sophomore linebacker who didn't play all year for the other team wants to make his name off of tackling you.
Yeah.
And you bust a knee, your career's over, and that guy doesn't get to do anything anyway, because there's a reason you're a redshirt sophomore and only playing in this game.
Yeah.
Right? There's just different motivations for guys.
Yeah.
Matt,
Yeah.
you are
Matt.
yearning to talk over there. Please.
I mean, I agree with you guys. There's no silver bullet that's going to solve all the issues and make every single player stay or opt out. I think they do need to change the time frame of when you can enter the transfer portal. I think they need to make that after the bowl season to keep players currently on the roster. And then also what I would do, another suggestion, is actually instead of 6 being the threshold, let's make it 8. You have to win 8 games to be able to play in a bowl game, and then just make less bowls. So it's a little bit more of a scarcity, especially since now there's going to be 12 teams going to be in the playoffs. So I think that would produce more money and TV ads. And Mark, to your point, I think it would put more money towards those bowls if there was less of them for that marketing aspect. And again, they're probably going to have some kind of twist into an NIL, because money is going to be the biggest incentive for a lot of these kids who maybe aren't a top 10 pick or first, second round or whatever it might be. Again, you're just going to lose those guys no matter what. But they got to change the time frame of recruit or signing day, the transfer portal, and then I would think the scarcity of the bowls would be a couple of suggestions I would implement to hopefully help some of these bowl games be more competitive. I mean, we saw Georgia and Florida State. Florida State had 19 guys out, and they got the biggest loss in FC history by 60 points, whatever it might be. It's going to happen if
I don't feel
something
bad
doesn't
for him at
change.
all.
I don't either. I agree. But some of these other games, like, I mean, I guess you can't really say anything about Oregon and Liberty, because Liberty definitely didn't deserve to be in that game. But we're going to see games like that next year. I mean, Liberty would have made the top 12, and they're going to have to play a team like an Oregon or something of that nature. So, but I think those are a couple of suggestions just to make the bowl environment more competitive and incentivize maybe a couple more people to stay on the roster. We'll see.
I don't think you'll see contraction. I think that's the one thing we won't see, because every school wants money. And so if you get to 6 wins, now you might get bowl money.
Yep.
And, if anything, they add bowls every year. So while I agree with what you're saying, Matt, it's a little bit to me like people clamoring for the NBA to cut down on games. It's like, no, they're not going to do that, dog.
Nah.
These are all venues. These are all venues, and these are all people being paid to do 82 events every single year. So I don't see that part coming, but you got to find a way to make what you have both entertaining and important enough to the players to stick around.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. This is just the new reality, and it kind of sucks, but maybe it'll get fixed. Maybe it'll get better. Maybe it'll get worse. But at this point, we just don't know.
I heard a pitch for a commissioner of college football, and not a president of the NCAA, a college football commissioner. And I'm all for it. I don't know who it'd be, but that sounds like someone who is overseeing just college football. Their job is to fix college football. I'm all for that.
Needs to happen.
I'm all for that. Also, I don't feel bad for Florida State at all. Like, that to me screams culture problem. Like, you could have made the playoff, you didn't, and then half your team quits because they don't want to play. Half of Georgia's team didn't quit. They were in a very similar situation, and they went out there and they kicked your ass.
They could have been labeled as national champions had they won that game.
Yeah, they could have taken the UCF route, but they didn't. But they didn't, because they're soft. And that's pretty pathetic. That's pretty pathetic. Like, I don't feel bad for them. You could have made me feel bad for them a few weeks ago, but after what they did and trotted out, and half their team just like, no, we're not. This game doesn't even matter. That a big time Florida. What bowl was that where OU curb stomped them after half their team quit?
It was
It wasn't. Was it a New Year's Six? I
thought it was a Sugar Bowl for some reason.
I don't think it was, but it was definitely us against not Billy Napier, Dan Mullins last Florida team.
Yeah.
And he called his own guys JV players.
Yeah, he called his own guy JV players. So yeah, it's just it's pathetic. That's all I have. But yeah, commissioner of college football sounds like a pretty sick gig that I think you could pay somebody a good amount of money to do.
Absolutely.
The closest we're going to get to that is the Sankey League, which is just going to be when Greg says, all right, this NCAA thing isn't working out anymore. I'm doing this with all the SEC teams. Hey, some of the Big Ten, you want to come along?
Yeah.
I don't care about your conferences. You don't have to do all that. This is its own thing.
Yeah.
And he just makes all this, and he makes all the rules we want and none of the rules we don't want. And that's how it works. One thing, just real fast before we move on, because Patrick, I know it's time to move on. This year features the first final in 9 seasons that does not include the SEC.
Wow.
So very fun kind of mix up here and of teams. And I sort of think the proliferation of NIL and the 12-team playoff means you're going to see more teams get opportunities, even if the SEC gets back to the top pretty soon.
Yeah, like Mark mentioned, the first time there was no SEC team, I believe was 2015. That was Oregon against Ohio State. That was the first playoffs, and Ohio State won that. And since then, it's just been Georgia, Alabama, or Clemson winning CFP
LSU.
and
Iron-
LSU. Yep. So
I-
SEC teams in Clemson, pretty much.
That Ohio State team behind Ironheart, Urban Meyer. It's a good team.
Absolutely.
And I came to school to play ball, not to play school. Cardale Jones,
You gotta love it, man.
the third string dream.
He was.
Let's touch real quick on Michigan, Washington. Who you think is going to win and why? I'll go ahead and go first, and then we can wrap up and get out of here. I've got Washington, better offense, better quarterback. They're gonna let up some points. I get that, but I just got to go with a better quarterback on this one, and that's definitely Washington. So I've got Washington beating Michigan. Mason?
I have Washington as well. My head tells me Michigan, but my heart tells me Washington because I really don't want Michigan after the bull crap that they pulled this year to walk away with a national title. And hilarious Jim Harbaugh after the Rose Bowl just saying how together these guys are. It's like us against the world. It's like, bro, you did this. Like you did this. It's
problem.
your fault. But yeah, I have Washington. I think the offense that, like I said, Michigan has not seen a quarterback like Michael Penix Jr. all season long. I think they're going to throw the ball around the field. I think he's going to have 400 yards passing. I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think they're going to blow him out by any means, but I have Washington. I'll call it 38-35.
So Matt already kind of gave his, right? He said Michigan was going to blow him out, or however
Blow them out, he says.
you phrased it. I am so nervous because I was sort of leaning Washington, and then all of y'all went Washington. And I'm worried that maybe I'm just going with the sexy pick. I'll say this. I'm going to pick Washington for all the reasons y'all did. And because I think the talent at quarterback and at the receiver positions is much, much, much better than what Alabama has. So the game that you saw from Jalen Milroe and the Alabama team is not the game that you're going to see from Michael Penix, Rome Odunze, and the Washington offense. That said, we will know in the first 2 or 3 drives how that game is going to go. Because if the Michigan defense is able to get pressure like they were able to on Jalen Milroe, then I don't think there's anything anyone can do. Because the Michigan defense is that good, but they just haven't played anything like this. So if they can overcome that in ways that I'm not quite expecting, then that's going to be, I think, the matchup of the game. Matt, go ahead. Go ahead.
Michigan wins big, baby. I think that defense is
Big.
going to be too much because Michael Penix is a pure pocket passer, right? He doesn't use his legs that often. He will when he has to, but I think Michigan's going to do exactly what Mark said. I think they're going to be able to get pressure. They were able to do 5+ sacks on Jalen Milroe that night. I think they're going to be able to get home on Penix. Again, I think Penix will still have a big game. He's still going to go around the yard. He's got 2 NFL caliber wide receivers at his disposal. So I think there's going to be a lot of points scored, but I think Michigan is just going to prevail based on what I saw against the Alabama game. And I think Jim Harbaugh will be able to prepare and get his team ready. Again, do I want Michigan to win with after all that's happened this year? Absolutely not. I just think they're the better team of the two and have a very, very good defense that will be able to hold up.
Cool.
You can get a yes overtime for plus 800. That's a fun bet.
Not bad.
That's a fun bet. Classic.
Remember, we are sponsored by our friends at the Fan Stop. Use our promo code PGUYZ for 15% off their game day polos or 15% off their shirt of the month club. Go to their website right now. It's in the comments. It's in the description of this video as well. Guys, anything else before we wrap it up?
Do we want to do a bowl season MVPs?
Well, I was kind of going to leave that till the national championship recap, I guess.
Well, I would think we would do a championship MVP.
Okay. Let's do it. Hey,
All
there
right,
are
I'm
no
going-
rules, baby.
I'm going Pop Tarts.
Okay, Pop-Tarts.
They've really stolen the show. Apparently that bowl game is the highest rated either non-New Year's Six or non-playoff bowl game all postseason.
That's crazy.
Yeah, really, really crazy stuff. But that's sort of my point is like bowls don't have to be dying. You can still have fun with it. It's just gonna be weird. You gotta lean into the weird. College football is the weirdest shit in the world.
Yeah.
Let's just like lean into that. So MVP, Pop-Tart.
Mason?
My MVP is Oklahoma State because Ollie Gordon, for whatever reason, is deciding to come back to Oklahoma State for another year. And Oklahoma State does not deserve that. So credit to them for somehow whatever package they're feeding him to keep him in Stillwater. Shout out to them because they're doing the right thing. Ollie
That's
Gordon.
crazy.
I-
Matt?
I'm going to go with a team. I'm going Texas State, who just moved from FCS to FBS, appearing in their first bowl game this year for the Texas State football program itself, beating Rice 45-21. And linebacker Brian Holloway had 2 pick sixes in this game that propelled them to that victory in the First Responder Bowl. Good for Texas State as a program. They had a really good year ending, I believe, 9-5, 8-6, something like that, but a pretty good year for a first team FES program. So Texas State Bobcats. And for selling out of Fort Worth's beer in like the first half or something ridiculous because they like to party.
Well, that's a
Love
Fort
that
Worth
so much.
problem.
Shout out
Hey,
GJ
Fort Worth.
Kinney.
Thought it was
GJ
like the SMU one.
GJ Kinney, proud Tulsa Golden Hurricane alum. Shout out to him.
I'm going Tennessee for shutting out
Oh,
Iowa.
God.
35-0.
For shutting out the worst offense. in
Hey,
football.
he's nothing if not on brand.
That's
Right.
Nothing if not on brand.
And I guess that's the wrap, folks. That's the wrap, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do
We're
you
wrapping
get
it.
credit? Do you get credit from like your Tennessee friends when you name a Tennessee MVP? Does it register with them?
No, this is just a him thing.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I really
just
think
It
making sure.
registers.
Okay. All right, good.
I mean,
as long as you get some
yeah,
credit.
they definitely like
eh,
me more for it. Yeah.
Not just like you're throwing out blind loyalty out here and they're all just and you're just like, hey, I just made this guy my MVP on the pod. And they're like, cool.
Yeah,
They
no, they're
definitely
not-
like me more.
I love that. Okay. Thanks, Pat.
All right, guys, go to thefanstop.com, use our promo code PGUYZ, sign up for their Shirt of the Month Club, go get yourself a game day polo or all the other cool stuff they now have on their website as well. If you made it through as well, go ahead and like and subscribe to
Like and
the
subscribe.
program. Mark, take us out.
Keep pushing it, baby.
There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.